Hello, viewers, and welcome to the latest episode of The Huddle. I'm here with Diallo Gordon, CEO of Passport Technology. Diallo, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Tim, it's a pleasure. Looking forward to talking with you.
Yeah, plenty of talking points for us to go over. To start off with, a few months in the role as CEO, quite openly, how do you reflect?
It's been great. When I tell you the airline miles have racked up, the first thing was to spend a lot of time with the internal team members, our employees, and we're all over the place. We've got an office in Los Angeles. We have our design center here in Las Vegas. We opened up an office in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. Spent some time up in Vancouver. We've got an office over in London. We're looking to expand into Africa. So when I tell you I've been all over the place, and that's just with the employees and partners. And then on the customer side, just the same gambit. So Oklahoma, East Coast, Washington State, Canada, overseas, you name it. So the very first thing was just sitting in front of employees, getting in front of customers, explaining the story, what keeps you up at night, what are the promises that we made, making sure they understand I'm going to keep them, and just going that way. So it's been super, super busy, but I'm very, very grateful to be in the role.
Yeah, it sounds like a busy time, sounds like a time of growth. And obviously with G2E coming up, it's not going to get, the business levels aren't going to fall anytime soon.
For sure. Agree 1,000%.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about the rest of your kind of C-level team as well. So obviously there's Cleve, who's was CEO, still kind of on C-level, and he's been a previous guest on the Huddle as well. And you're people like Jason King. Why don't you just sort of tell us about what it's like working with them?
Yeah, it's awesome because I've always described to servant-based leadership where the org structure is really upside down. So believe it or not, the line level employees are up there at the top, and then you've got middle management, you've got our senior team, and then you've got our C-suite, and then myself and the board. So one of the first things that I said coming in the door was that's exactly how I wanted the structure to be. But in terms of like the C-suite and who I'm working with directly on a day-to-day basis, it's been great. Cleve is focusing more on our M&A strategy. So like different companies that we're looking at, companies that possibly could be looking at us, as well as helping with our shareholders and making sure that the proper return on their investment is there. Is really one of Cleve's specialties. When you look at his background, it gives him the opportunity to do the things that he's really, really good at. Jason is our CRO. I've been working with him, I would say more directly on the relationship side of the business, spending a lot of time with our customers and with our partners, just making sure that we've kept our promises. We talked about that, previously. Also, you've got Chad Boynat, who is in a dual role, our COO and CFO. And that's been a heavy emphasis with us as well. So, internally, we feel that our best product, it has to be service. And so having the service organization aligned under one vertical was very, very important to me. Otherwise, you've got different pieces in the organization that are trying to manage the most important thing, which is our service organization. So Chad's aligned our value chain, so the supply chain, service, operations, implementation, and delivery. And then you've got the finance organization all combined into one. And that's been a really, really great strategic move for us, and we better communicate with our customers. And then you've got John Steely, who is our CIO and our president of DataStream. Another one of the really amazing things about this business, and something that is unique in our space, is it's rare that fintech companies own their own payment switch. And we've built out a cloud-based payment switch, over the last 20 years. And it's really, really something to behold. And that's a job in and of itself. So making a lot of these moves allows John to focus on the things that he's really good and passionate about, which is core payments and the technology that delivers those payments.
hmm When it comes to yourself, there's quite a background there. Quite a varied background, but quite a background in terms of product. A kind of founder of Fee Gaming, PHI Gaming, kind
Mhm.
of an expertise in loyalty products, and
Sure.
chief product officer was kind of part of your role before moving into CEO. Do you think it's important for a CEO to kind of be very in tune with the product side?
Absolutely. I mean, because it goes back to the most important thing. Like when you talk about, a CEO and the day to day of the company, it's keeping promises. And so your product person is the one who should be right sizing the expectations, not just of the internal business and shareholder return, but for our customers who rely on your products to deliver that guest experience. So if those two things aren't aligned, it could be a hot mess. So I like the fact that I have a really unique perspective on the product, on what we can and cannot do, what keeps customers up at night, how regulators feel about what we do, the differences between the different jurisdictions, the verticals. So with iGaming and real money gaming, brick and mortar casinos, payments, a wallet, loyalty, table games, automation, Title 31, anti-money laundering, like all those things fit into our one ecosystem of payments, automation, loyalty. So I see it as an advantage, understanding the product in and out, understanding how we keep our promises to our customers is very, very important. So I have a unique, call it, seat at the table where I understand a little bit more of the intimate details of how our products work and services work.
And of course, we know that you're very keen to demonstrate the product because last year, for example, at G2E, we came over and you did a little demonstration at the booth.
Absolutely. Yeah, you just always have to be current. Always need to know, what's going on, how you can be better, and understanding better never rests. There's always room for improvement. And so I've made even a point today, even with stepping into this role, still doing demos with customers because I want to be involved. Now certainly got to be strategic. I've got to be looking at the whole organization, but I like being connected to the customers. In this business, that means everything. Trust will, can kind of come in on foot, but it'll leave on horseback if you break it. So that's why I try to stay so close to the customers.
Yeah, that's a great phrase. When it comes to, you've been in the industry for a while, and you've kind of seen kind of loyalty products and a few different industries. Over time, over the last kind of few years, how much has the product changed? And is it a case of actually it hasn't changed that much because, there's a lot of classic elements that customers still want the same things?
It's actually changed quite a bit. And what I would say is that your product has got to be flexible. And a lot of people like to throw out the omni-channel term, but I think more so in loyalty, you got to be able to touch the customer everywhere they go in the resort in the overall offering. And so if you're one-sided, you can only get them on one front. It's just not going to give them the best experience. What I'd also say is that one of the things that we've done in our product strategy that I think is really, really important, and I'm seeing this today, is being able to customize and tailor promotions through smaller, call it like smaller groups, smaller segments, where there's different goals that the organization has, the organization being the casino, to delight that guest. And I love that about our product offering is that it's not a one size fit all, kind of mass market tool. If it's someone who's high worth and you have these specific goals, we have a promotion or tool to serve that customer. Or if you flip the other way and it's mass market and maybe not as much worth, but you want to find a way to grow and progress them after you've done the hard part, the customer acquisition, growing them and retaining them through those tiers, we have those promotions as well.
I mean, that touches on the wider concepts, I guess, of personalization and, of course, retention. It's a question I ask a lot, and it's still being asked in the industry, which probably says kind of where we're at. But has there been kind of enough development in those areas in the last few years?
I would say we've certainly put a lot of investment, meaning Passport and previous to Passport 5, we put a lot into that, where it wasn't just the cookie cutter promotions. A lot of it was building out, call it the flexibility to be able to do things like that. And in our oligopoly, we don't really see that as much. Now, our competitors are out there every day grinding just like we are, and I never knock that because it's difficult. But no, we've put a lot of investment in ourselves in that flexibility and that ability to customize and tailor promotions directly to guests. Which, to be frank with you, I really haven't seen it as much with our competitive group, but we'll get there. The market
Hmm.
always will catch up, so that means we just have to keep going fast.
Hmm. So I mentioned G2E a couple of times. Obviously, massive show coming up. What are your kind of main goals? What are you looking to achieve at the show?
Absolutely. It's taking our payments business or our core business. You've got, ATM, debit, credit card, cash advance, check, as well as alternative payments. We've got some innovation and some patents that we've executed on that we're going to talk more at the show in the payments vertical. Doing more with table game players. We feel that is a underserved, call it demographic inside the casino space, just ripe for innovation. That's on the payment side. For automation, for our jackpot and taxable products, it's the theme of never turning your back on the customer and being able to do as much as you can and go as far as you can in the transaction. When a machine locks up and you got to pay a jackpot, doing everything you can without turning your back on that guest. That's very important for us as well as cash recycling and money laundering and Title 31 compliance, which makes up our automation products. And then on loyalty, there's a lot of things that we want to show with gifting and continuity, some enhanced promotions, some updates to our UI and UX, and some additional feature functionality that we've added to our platform. But really, if you think about that payments, automation, and loyalty, it's how does everything connect, right? So not intersecting and kind of, touching each other in the night, none of that stuff. Like literally, how do you really build a core that can go out and say for payments, automation, and loyalty, those things just not only touch, but they truly intersect. And that's what we call our Origins API. We've had a lot of customers that have utilized that and have had substantial ROI on being able to tie those verticals together. That's going to be a key part of our theme at G2E, is explaining why all that makes sense and how we think differently in the space.
Hmm. If you and you bearing in mind, you've mentioned a few different verticals, a few different products, and the list will be longer of all the products you have. But if you were to pick out a product you think could be a star at this show, and it may well be that at the end of the show you might be surprised something else kind of overtakes it. But if you had to pick one out, what do you think could really shine for Passport?
That's a tough one because they're all my babies, right? So you asked
Yeah.
about products, so you gotta love all your babies. But this is one of those where I think my love for the product is whole, even though it's divided by three. And I shouldn't say divided by three, but if I could tell you the one that I'm the most excited about, I would say it's our Origins,
Hmm.
our Origins API and how we're able to tie what seemingly were disparate verticals. At least that's how our competition saw it, and some of the people in the industry sees it. But being able to tie those systems together is very special to me. So I think that that is one, as well as our automation product. So, a lot of people have put, I would say, a pretty heavy emphasis on cashless and the cashless journey, not realizing that cash is still going to be on the floor for a long time, for a while. And I'm not just saying that because we have products to sell. It's the truth. You have people that come in that are either unbanked or the underbanked, different jurisdictions that allow different things. Are we gonna get there eventually? Sure. I'm sure that's gonna happen. But in the meantime, you better have a solid automation strategy to be able to get you there, to recycle the cash you have on the floor, to reduce treasury and LIBOR and bulk cash and those things, as well as being able to turn taxable jackpots to players and dealing with table game players in an efficient way that doesn't tie up precious resources and seats and tables. That's important as well. So I apologize. I didn't give you a a non-answer there, but I would say Origin's API that connects our payments automation loyalty business. But then I also have to say our automation product. We've put a lot into that, and I think customers are going to be very surprised with how far we've come.
No, I think that's a fair answer, even if you didn't necessarily single out just the one. Certainly a couple you're excited about there. And the point about cash, I think it's a really important one, actually, because we've done a couple of payments-focused magazines over the last few years. And so 2-3 years ago, there was a lot of emphasis on cashless. And I think last year or two, we as you say, we're seeing a lot more of, yes, there's cashless, but there's still a huge market out there for cash, other options. And I think the key at the moment is probably just having as many options as the customer wants.
You're right. And then the other thing is that it's not our journey. We just have to make sure we're there for wherever the customer is in their arc. So as an example, there are some very aggressive, well-resourced, and tight companies and partners that want to move to cashless as soon as possible. So you have to be flexible and have the horses to be able to satisfy that demand. The flip side of it is there could be casino resorts that are saying, well, this is not something that we want to see in 3 to 5 years, but we want to see it in 7 years because we've got a system that we have to upgrade. We've got an expansion that we have to do. We have a hotel that we have to, stand up. And it's like you're spinning all these plates. Which ones do I stop spinning to introduce a cashless strategy? So instead of forcing it, I think we need to be patient as partners and vendors. We need to be patient with operators because you never really know where they are in their growth arc. And so you have to be able to have a solution if they're ready. But if they're not ready, how do we get them there and help them be more efficient, be good partners in getting them more efficient? So that way, when they are ready, that it is there. And I think that's going to be the difference here is that we're not trying to force, our operators into something that they're not ready for because we're cognizant of all the things that they have to do to delight their guests. So it just might be a priority for them. And they may not have the underlying technology to deliver the best guest experience. You got to rip up carpet. You got to open up walker duct. Sometimes you got to run wire. You've got to replace displays in a slot machine. You've got infrastructure at table games. You've got routers, servers, compute, all those things that are important before you make large substantive CapEx decisions like that. So we're very, very flexible, but we do that because the customer journey should be at their pace, not ours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I take your point. Really interesting kind of serving customers at different phases of kind of the growth stage. A couple more questions for you. One more on G2E, and it's quite a broad one, but at the same time, kind of putting you on the spot. If you wanted to achieve one thing by the end of G2E, you're sitting there either with a beer or a coffee, whatever the beverage of choice is, and you're looking back on a busy show. If there was one thing you could say, we hit that, we hit that target, what would it be? What would be the most important priority, I think?
It's not that. It's not. I'm genuine when I say this. It's not about, hey, we had an amazing G2E and we have 15 signed contracts that came out of it, and we're going to have an amazing 25 and 26. To me, that's not really what it is. What I'd like to see is the customers that we saw last year. This year, do you feel we're better? Right? Did we keep our promises? And there's some tough conversations, right? There's some tough conversations to be had. So a lot of times, and the reason why I say that is because a key part of your growth in getting to those 15 agreements in 2025 is the customers that you do have. Do you make them happy? Are they satisfied with your product? Are they happy with your service. It's the most honest thing that you can ask someone. Are you happy? So that's what I'm looking for. If you ask me what's the most, what's my metric for a successful G2E, is sitting down with customers that I met with last year and being able to sit across from them and getting an objective answer for whether or not we're better. That's what's important to me.
Yeah, no, sure. I mean, best of luck with all the meetings that you do have at the show.
Sure.
For a final question, I wanted to actually broaden the scope a little bit from the show and ask specifically about yourself. We talked about we briefly touched on your experience before Passport Technology and your journey with the company, but also you're a proud military veteran, and you're not the only executive within gaming that actually has kind of come through those ranks. So just wanted to see kind of how you reflect on kind of maybe what you learned from that environment, and also what is it perhaps about gaming that that we do see a lot of veterans kind of succeed in the executive level in gaming?
Sure. That's a great question. It's funny because, as an Air Force veteran, there's what we call our core values. So integrity first, service before self, and excellence in all we do is the Air Force core values. And there's in the middle of all that is selflessness. So if you truly want to embrace servant-based leadership, that I am genuinely here to make sure that people are successful and they are growing and they are better and they're able to do things that otherwise they feel that internally they're not capable of doing. And if you can imbue them with the tools, the core values, the characteristics, the leadership, and make time to help them realize that there is literally anything that they can do, that is to me, is one of the key advantages of coming from the military and being in a company like Passport, where with payments, automation, and loyalty, it's very, very complex, right? And so it's kind of similar to some of the programs that I worked in. They're very, very complex, but you have to find a way to make the complex simple. So that's the first thing, is the leadership aspect of it. The second thing is the diversity in thought. So we live in a very polarized world where things matter that you otherwise don't think matter. Politics, nobody really likes to talk about it. Different views of the world, outlooks on how things are. People have really, really different feelings about what's appropriate in the workplace, and what's not. And I can tell you that when you're part of a team, that if someone doesn't do their job, a mother won't come home or a father won't come home. You tend to look at things a little bit differently. And that's another advantage, I think, becoming an executive, but having a background as a veteran is as a vet, you deal with a lot of characters that have a lot of different viewpoints on the world, because the piece of the world that they grew up in is maybe some small town in the middle of Kansas with 500 people, and they've never really seen the world. Whereas I have a bit of a different perspective, because I was fortunate enough to travel. So how do you get someone from the middle of nowhere, Kansas, to someone who's traveled the world and get them on the same page? And the military has a very, very, cool way of making stuff like that happen. So that way you're actually performing and doing what you're doing to make sure that person comes home and it's for the greater good. And then the last thing is the discipline, right? Is being able to get up in the morning. This is a very, very tough, competitive oligopoly. It's cutthroat. A lot of people don't know what happens, what it takes to get a yes on an agreement. But with the training that I've been through and with what I've learned and what I saw, there is just zero quit in me. And I demand that of our C-suite and our team, that we will always be in the fight no matter what, that you just never give up. And I don't think that I would have had that perspective. I won't go back further, so I'm not going to turn this into a therapy appointment. I won't go back further. But what I would say, in the military, you learn to have that fight in you, and that there's always, as long as your eyes are open, you always got a shot. And I'll never let my team quit, and I'll always be there for them. So.
No, fascinating insight, and thanks for answering that question so thoroughly.
Sure.
In general, thanks very much for your time, Diallo. Really enjoyed the chat. So kind of the topics we covered, I'm sure we could speak on for days on end, or going further. But best of luck at the show at G2E, and best of luck with everything you're doing for the rest of the year.
Yeah, Tim, appreciate it. See you soon.
Thank you. And to our viewers, as always, thanks for watching.